welcome everybody to another one in our series of podcasts and video conversations with some of the most important stakeholders in Canadian clean tech. And this is really focusing, as you know, on the way we show up as the Clean Resource Innovation Network at COP28, which is an incredibly important global gathering in which we hope through this series to help the world understand that what we can teach the world and what we can learn from the world in terms of where the world's going in its decarbonization and climate-related efforts. And today we have the pleasure of having with us Dr. Aminah Robinson Fayek, who is the VP of Research and Innovation at one of our crown jewels in Canada, the University of Alberta. Welcome, Aminah.
Thank you, Bill.
So one of the things that we're talking about through this process, what we really want to elevate is the people power of our resource economy. People are sort of big staple of that, and obviously you're one of the actors on that stage, but also that whole University of Alberta innovation ecosystem across many faculties and many disciplines, right? You know, when I look up interdisciplinary in the dictionary, it just says see University of Alberta. And so that's the theme that we'll go through on this conversation. But one of the questions we've been asking all the participants is, when you're at COP, and you will be at COP, moderating a panel and engaging with the world, and if you were lucky enough to sort of engage with a senior government official from somewhere, and you had a chance just to chat very informally around how you think about Canada's clean tech environment and organizations like CRIN, which are the ultimate in the collaboration model. So just riff on what you'd say.
So thank you so much, Bill, for having me on this podcast. We're so excited to be part of the CRIN booth and to attend COP28. So I think CRIN really embodies what we're trying to achieve in terms of delivering innovations to achieve our climate goals. And CRIN is an incredible network of multiple perspectives, similar to what we're trying to do as being a good partner at the University of Alberta. So CRIN brings together academic institutions, innovators, government, funding agencies, and very importantly, industry and those who will be able to implement all of the technologies and solutions we're trying to develop. It creates a rich environment for us to all be part of that process, not only to exchange ideas, but each of us is responsible for one of the components that's required to ultimately meet our net zero emission targets. And so having that opportunity to interact and having the opportunity to connect on these major initiatives is one of the greatest values of CRIN.
I don't want to leave students out of the conversation because the U of A is also doing some marvelous things about sort of formatting the human capital curriculum for the next 50 or 60 years. So reflect on some of that in terms of what's happening now will benefit our students who will be industry leaders and that sort of thing down the road for future COPs. But the U of A is preparing the course-based and research-based programs that will allow that to happen.
So student training and the what we call highly qualified personnel that graduate from the University of Alberta are the leaders of the future. And that's at every level. Our undergraduate students, our graduate students, our postdoctoral fellows. They're being taught by faculty members who are at the leading edge of their disciplines. And so they're receiving that firsthand information. They're the ones who will then go out into industry, into society, into other academic institutions and take that knowledge with them. So that's the most efficient way to transfer knowledge. A lot of our graduate students and postdoctoral fellows, they do their work in collaboration with our industry and community partners, and then they're hired by these organizations. So training these students, whether it's in the classroom, through their research activities, or through any of our external engagements, that's the knowledge that gets transferred via these students to a variety of organizations, whether they go on to become faculty members and academics, go on to work in government, go on to work in industry or communities. So you make an excellent point. And I don't want to leave out the polytechnics like the NAIT and SAIT. They have a very significant role as well, because they're training the workforce that will also be implementing these technologies. So we see ourselves as part of that ecosystem. We have to work hand in hand with other post-secondary institutions at various levels. And each of us is training students with a bit of a different background and skill set. So it is a very important point you make. beyond the technologies we're developing through our research, it's actually the students who are working with us hand in hand and then down the road implementing these technologies. And a lot of our students are now the senior leaders at the clean tech organizations.
Absolutely. And so just to come back to this whole importance of that nexus of collaboration, and I'm an advisor to the Redevelop program, for example, of which the U of A and 4 other universities are participants. And I watch geoscience students and engineering students and public policy students at the graduate level try to crack some of the toughest nuts our sector and society faces. And I know you're Iron Ring and you trained as an engineer, but you're succeeding as a transdisciplinary specialist in your current role. So when we think about how governments and industry and NGOs and all the actors come together and the public at large, can you sort of reflect, Aminah, on how that's transdisciplinary at work, right, in terms of pulling together with a focus on clean tech and decarbonization? Is that a fair way of expressing it?
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. It's multi-stakeholder and multidisciplinary at the same time. So when I look at technological advances, and I think we saw this during the pandemic, we had the science, but there was a whole bunch of other barriers that needed to be addressed for that to be effective. So when we look at clean energy or even decarbonization, we have the technological advances, but we also have to consider their feasibility, cost, environmental impact, and also the tailoring to our very unique climate, which is a northern climate in Canada, and the diverse communities, including our Indigenous and northern communities. And so in order to solve this problem, not only do we need multiple disciplines working on it simultaneously from all angles, but we need multiple parties and perspectives to come together so that we can really make the changes we need to make. So if we develop anything in isolation, it won't succeed. It's an entire ecosystem that has to work together. And each of us has a role. Each of us has a role to play. And we have to understand where we best fit, where we can make the best impact. But we're simply handing something over to the next party that takes it to the next level. And so that's where we see our relationships with external parties critical for us to deliver these innovations. And most of our research programs are done in collaboration with external stakeholders, whether they're funders, whether they're people that give us advice or work with us. So it is something that we strongly believe in. And we think whether it's climate change or health issues, we're not going to solve these global challenges unless we come together.
That's extraordinarily well put. We could go on for 8 hours and still need another 8 hours and another 8 hours to talk about all the phenomenal things happening at the U of A, the research and the innovation. But coming back to the COP context, as I mentioned earlier, work that great scholars like Dr. Rick Chalaturnik are undertaking on the geomechanical dimensions of CCS and that sort of thing. Give us some other examples of things you would say in that 30-second COP elevator pitch about, did you know we're working on these cool things?
So in terms of the University of Alberta, as you correctly noted, we have expertise in carbon capture, utilization, and storage, long-time expertise, hydrogen production, critical minerals, resilient electric grids, and zero-emission vehicles. And then, importantly as well, land and water reclamation. So all of these things are going to work together with our expertise in renewable energies, and we work very closely with companies that are implementing solar and wind power. But we can't solve our net zero climate challenges or meet our targets and also at the same time maintain the required energy levels, accounting for the fact that there is considerations related to cost and feasibility without looking at all of these technologies together. And each of them has a role in helping us meet our emission targets. And so that's our approach. And we're fortunate because we have experts on campus in all of these areas that are able to bring those to the table. And that's what we hope to achieve, is create an environment where we've got all of these technologies. Depending on what the needs are, we're able to pick from a menu of options to help us achieve our goals and at the same time deliver the energy we need to, given our climate and given our northern location, to ensure that we're able to do that cost effectively and also accounting for our northern and remote and Indigenous communities.
That's extremely well put. And before I get you to describe what the panel is going to be like at the panel you'll moderate at COP, my spidey sense about COP is what the world events have told us in the last couple of years is that energy security and stability of supply. The opposite side of the coin is just food security and stability of supply. And shameless plug for my good friend, Dr. Stan Blade, who runs the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry. So reflect on how those things are commingled in a really important social context.
Yeah, that's a good question. And by the way, agriculture is a very important sector, and agriculture and food security, as you noted, is another one of our strengths. And it's also very related to meeting our climate targets. We can do a lot in terms of improving our emissions from agriculture processes. Food security, energy security, food poverty, energy poverty go hand in hand. These are the big challenges our world is facing, not just in Canada, but internationally. So we partner with international organizations around the world who face these things to different extents. But you are right, those are two parallel issues. And that's when I talk about energy solutions and their feasibility and cost. It is about ensuring that we are cognizant of energy poverty as well as, to your point, food insecurity. So they go hand in hand. And I'm glad that you mentioned agriculture and food security, because it's another one of our priority areas at the University of Alberta.
I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, I sit on the board of an organization called Ag for Life, and we've just launched a whole Energy Ag Advisory Committee to help support the board on its work. And Dr. Blade has graciously agreed to be a member of that board. So just as we wrap up here, Aminah, the panel, the conversation at COP, that's going to be fascinating in terms of the little bits of Canadian DNA that we leave behind. What kind of learning ears will you go to COP with? Because, we want to go to make sure as Canadians that we've got a lot to learn as well as a lot to teach, so to speak. So tell us about your panel.
Yeah, so I'll tell you about my panel, but I just want to talk about the learning piece. The most exciting part of my job is the fact that I get to learn each and every day, and I'm learning all the time. As you said, I am an engineer. I'm a faculty member in engineering, but coming into my new role as Vice President Research and Innovation, I've had the privilege of learning about all the different disciplines on campus. So in the panel, what we're trying to do is actually recreate what you and I have talked about, which is having representatives that represent different aspects of this ecosystem that are working on our energy challenge. So I'm moderating the panel, but the panelists will be our president, Bill Flanagan, Laura Kilcrease, who's the CEO of Alberta Innovates, and Alberta Innovates is a great partner of ours. They play a very, very important role in moving innovations forward and working both with industry and post-secondary institutions. We have Rona Del Frari from Synovus, and she's their Executive VP of Sustainability. And we have a request out. Hopefully we'll get a government panelist to join us. And the questions will really be about each of them sharing their perspective on how they fit within this ecosystem and the training of highly qualified personnel in terms of how we deliver the technological, social, and environmental innovations in the energy sector to help us meet our climate change goals.
That's well put. And, between Bill Flanagan and Laura Kilcrease and Rona, phenomenal top-rate individuals. I only wish you had 8 hours for that panel, because there's a lot of perspective to unpack and tease out from those phenomenal individuals who will represent not only Alberta, but Canada very, very well. So, Aminah, thank you very much for your time, and good luck in COP. I know you'll carry the opportunity burden with you as you go there.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. We're really looking forward to COP. Hopefully it will lead to many further conversations.
I say it's copportunities, Aminah, copportunities.
I like that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.